A waitress leans in and whispers to the billionaire, "I'm sorry, sir. She slipped something into your dessert." Hey, where are you watching from? I'd love to know if you're enjoying this story. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means the world to me. It truly helps me keep bringing you tales like this. I can't wait to read your thoughts in the comments. What if one small, courageous act in a moment of fear could spark a chain of events that changes the entire world? Ana Torres, a single mother struggling to survive after her husband's mysterious death, never imagined that one ordinary night at the Pearl, as she gently placed a dessert before a stranger's face, a single icy phrase would unearth the buried secrets she'd tried to suppress for 4 years. A dark truth linking David's death to powerful men she believed she'd never cross paths with. At 29, with her hair hastily tied at the nape of her neck, an apron worn and creased against her frame, and eyes forever acquainted with disappointment, Anna and her little daughter Mia inhabit a dilapidated Capitol Hill apartment where every wall seems to echo her silent sighs. Overdue rent notices and medical bills cover the table, and each meal is a careful calculation down to the last cent. 6-year-old Mia, whose bright eyes have never known the nights her mother weeps alone in the dark, whose smile alone tethers Anna from the abyss, is Anna's reason to endure. Every dollar Anna earns at the Pearl, the upscale restaurant where she waits tables, is paid for in aching feet, late nights, and the humiliation she swallows behind a forced smile in front of wealthy patrons. David was a soft-spoken software engineer with a gentle heart who believed right would always prevail. But one winter afternoon, he set out to work and never came home. Just a terse report of a hit-and-run accident, no explanation, no one held accountable. Just a death, closed too quickly, leaving Anna with an infant and a mountain of unpaid hospital bills. She once dreamed of becoming a writer. Her journals, filled with vivid sketches of Seattle life, gave her hope. But now those notebooks gathered dust in her closet, silenced among expired prescriptions and overdue invoices, her dreams crushed beneath the weight of reality. At the Pearl, she is nameless, a shadow amid financial tycoons and elegantly dressed ladies whose nasal tones and icy gazes place orders on plates that cost more than her family's weekly groceries. Still, she bows her head and smiles. For Mia, for the lights that stay on, for the water that still flows. In all that harshness, the only person who makes Anna feel less invisible is Carla Mendez, an older server with salt and pepper hair and eyes that have witnessed too much. Carla once worked in a factory. A workplace accident stole her health and devoured her faith in the very system she'd devoted her life to. She rarely speaks of her past, but every glance, every half-joking remark carries a scar too deep to heal. She and Anna share stolen moments behind the kitchen line, amid the scent of smoke clinging to their clothes and the ceaseless sizzle of pans, sipping lukewarm coffee from paper cups, dividing leftover bread from the guests' tables. In those rare seconds, Anna feels alive, no longer a silhouette, no longer a smiling automaton. Carla once told her, "We're not invisible. No one's just had the patience to look closely." That sentence burned itself into Anna's mind as both curse and fragile comfort. That night, business was busier than usual. A private party filled the back room, a long table draped in white linen, candles flickering against glasses of crimson wine. Anna was assigned to the head table. 12 impeccably dressed guests, voices low, their conversation hinting this was no ordinary social gathering. Seated at the head was a businessman in his 40s, his angular features set beneath a charcoal gray bespoke suit and a wristwatch worth more than Anna's apartment. His gaze swept the room until it fixed on her as she set the crème brûlée before him. He stared at the plate. After a moment, he spoke, not in a shout, but with a clarity that cut through the murmur. "There's something in my dessert." Anna froze. Her heart pounded for no fathomable reason. She scrutinized the plate, perfect, unblemished, but his gaze never left her. It wasn't about the pudding, it was something else. Like he recognized her, knew what she'd endured, or worse, knew something about David. In that instant, everything Anna had tried to forget came rushing back. The unanswered questions surrounding his death, the anonymous envelope she received a week after his funeral but never dared open. And now, beneath that unwavering stare, she realized tonight wasn't like any other night. Tonight marked the beginning of truths long buried, of stories yet untold, and perhaps the justice she'd waited a lifetime for. That Friday evening, the Pearl carried a different energy. It wasn't just the usual elegance or the clink of glasses on tables, but a tension so palpable it seemed on the verge of snapping. Nathaniel Voss, the man dubbed the mastermind behind the Voss Dynamics empire, arrived exactly as rumors suggested. Cold, composed, his presence so sharp it felt like the room itself held its breath as he entered. His gray suit was tailored without a wrinkle, his tie knotted as precisely as the career he built. Orderly, logical, with no room for error. Yet behind that brilliance lay a cascade of allegations. Harsh labor conditions at Asian factories. Thick envelopes slipped quietly into officials' hands. And tonight, Nathaniel hosted his partners at a private dinner, a display of power beneath soft lighting and pristine white linens. Anna Torres moved through the tables like a gentle shadow. Her uniform hugged her slender frame, her hair tied neatly at her nape, her service shoes frayed at the heel. She smiled, a practiced reflex that hid the exhaustion eating away at every muscle. Nights like this were an opportunity. Bigger tips, a new pair of shoes for Mia, perhaps another week without worrying about the electric bill or formula. She kept her tray steady as she slipped through the back door after retrieving dessert. Passion fruit cheesecake, its golden frosting smooth and metallic. Then she saw Carla. Carla stood at the kitchen counter, just steps from the dessert station. Her movements usually deliberate, precise, unruffled, like someone accustomed to pressure and loss. But tonight, something was off. Her hands trembled. Her arm froze over the platter bound for Nathaniel, and in an instant, a small vial glittered beneath the lights. Carla leaned in and gently sifted a fine powder over the cake's frosting, quick and subtle enough that few would notice. But Anna saw it. Crystal dust drifting like pollen, then vanishing into the golden sheen. She froze. Her chest tightened as if an invisible hand squeezed her lungs. She didn't understand what was happening, but Carla's eyes, flashing fear for a heartbeat, then feigning calm, awakened every survival instinct within her. She knew Carla, the woman who shared leftover bread with Mia, who'd slipped Anna a warm coat when she only had a thin jacket in winter. Carla wasn't malicious, but that moment, it couldn't lie. It couldn't be mistaken. Anna gripped her tray so hard her knuckles whitened. She stared at the cake, flawless, each layer sculpted as if by an artist. But now it was more than a dessert. It was a question, a decision, a trap, a point of no return. She could walk forward, set the plate down, turn away, pretend she'd seen nothing. She could remain silent, continue her role as the oblivious server to the wealthy. But what if there was truly something in the cake? Poison. A drug. Anything that could harm Nathaniel. What then? She thought of Mia, of her promise this evening, that she'd bring home a slice of real restaurant cake, something Mia longed for but never tasted. She recalled her daughter's smile as she said, "Mom, don't forget, I want real cake." She nodded. She had promised. But if she stayed quiet tonight, and tomorrow's headlines reported the CEO's poisoning, and someone discovered she knew, what then? She would lose more than her job. She would lose her freedom. She could even lose her child. Her heart pounded. Her hand trembled as she approached the head table. She placed the plate down, their eyes locking, sharp, probing, icy. This man was not easily shaken by trivial matters, but Anna had no time to hesitate. In one irrevocable moment, she leaned forward, lowered her voice to a tremulous whisper against the backdrop of string music. "I'm sorry, sir. She slipped something into your cake." Her words fell softly, yet within them, a world teetered. No music filled the ensuing silence. No calm existed in Anna's eyes. Only fear, and the fragile hope that by speaking out, she could still hold on to the most important thing in her life: the truth and her daughter. A silver spoon hovered in midair, suspended just above the gleaming layer of custard. Nathaniel's hand froze as if gripped by an invisible force. His eyes, cold, deep, and sharp as steel, locked onto Anna. Not a sound stirred in that instant, as if the entire dining room held its breath. Laughter dimmed and vanished. No one spoke. Movement ceased, leaving only the weight of countless gazes fixed upon her. Without a word of command, two men in black suits materialized, summoned from some unseen void. One gently retrieved the dessert plate, the other stepped behind Nathaniel like a silent wall. The cake was carried away for inspection. Stillness reigned. No glasses were raised. No one took another bite, and Anna remained, stranded amid a storm of looks that shredded her like cold, razor-sharp blades of doubt. Blood rushed to her face. She clenched her hands so tightly their knuckles turned white. Her mind echoed with questions, each drowned out by the thunder of her beating heart. She had no idea what awaited her. She didn't know if speaking the truth would save anyone, or simply hurl her into an abyss. Then, from the kitchen's back door, Carla emerged. No one spoke. No introduction was needed. Every pair of eyes shifted at once. Carla, the colleague, the friend who shared her leftover bread with Mia at the end of each shift, walked slowly into the dining room. Her face was ashen, drained of color, but her eyes, those eyes, burned with fierce intensity. They were not the eyes of the guilty. They were the eyes of someone who'd carried her pain so long it became a flame no silence could extinguish. Nathaniel asked nothing. He only stared, icy, silent. The pressure in his gaze felt like an iron vice clamped around the table's atmosphere. Carla lifted her head. Her voice was not loud, but precise and clear. Each word fell like a blade upon the taut air. She confessed. Yes, she had sprinkled a small amount of anesthetic into the cake's frosting, not to kill, but to render Nathaniel unconscious for a few hours. Not much, just enough for him to taste the helplessness, the emptiness, the uncontrollable fear she herself had once endured. Then her tone shifted, harder, barer. She spoke, brisk and unflinching, of her time at the Voss Dynamics factory in Indonesia, of the explosion caused by faulty equipment she'd reported time and again, only to be ignored, the blast that stole her left hand, the dismissal that followed instead of the support she'd hoped for. No compensation, no callbacks, only her and the unending medical bills, the nights spent sleepless with pain. the sense of being discarded like refuse. "This," she said, voice catching, "is the only way to make him understand that feeling, the feeling of losing control, of being powerless, forced to wait and see where fate will carry you." Anna stood paralyzed. She dared not move, dared not turn her head. Everything within her stiffened. Her heart weighed heavy as lead. She wanted to believe Carla, to embrace her, but fear constricted her throat like an invisible cord. Nathaniel's expression did not change. He remained silent for a long moment. Then he signaled, and Carla was led away. Before she left the room, her eyes flicked across Anna's face. No resentment, no anger, only a fleeting trace of hurt, like a door closing softly, without sound. Anna averted her gaze. She could not bear that feeling, that sensation of being seen as a betrayer. The dining room slowly returned to noise, but not the convivial laughter from moments before. Only whispers, curious looks, uncomfortable glances, and evasions. Guests rose and quietly exited the gathering that had just minutes ago been the evening's focal event. And Anna remained, standing there, unsure where to go or what to do next. The world around her blurred, as if she were sinking to the bottom of a terrifying dream. Nathaniel studied her, then motioned toward the chair opposite him. "Sit," he said, voice calm, firm. No anger remained, only a command and a subtle caution. Anna sat, hands still shaking. Her heart struggled to find a steady beat. Nathaniel watched her for a moment, then asked simply, "Do you know her well?" Anna swallowed. Her throat was parched. "She's a good person," she said, voice trembling. "I didn't know she would do this, but she's endured so much. She carries a wound no one saw." Nathaniel said nothing at first. He merely nodded once. His gaze softened, losing its icy edge, as if he were peering through Anna, glimpsing memories he'd buried beneath layers of success and control. Dear listeners, take a moment to relax, or grab a glass of water, then stay tuned for the next unexpected turn in our story, and let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always a thrill to see people joining us from around the world. Comment 1 if you're enjoying the story, so we can keep bringing you more great tales. The next morning, the city awoke with a jolt. Every newspaper splashed the story from the Pearl across its front page. Sensational headlines ran wild. Billionaire poisoning plot uncovered at dinner. Former employee threatens famous CEO with drugged cake. They painted Carla as an extremist, an embittered woman consumed by hate. They recreated the tale like a cheap drama. Good versus evil, with no room for the pain and the reasons behind it. Anna, fortunate enough to remain unnamed, sat on the worn sofa in her cramped apartment, her eyes glued to the TV screen, her mind detached from every sound. She stared blankly at the distorted, ruthless images of Carla flashed through the media lens. Guilt swelled in her chest like a flood. She never meant to betray Carla. Never. But it was her whispered words last night that ignited this storm. It was she who, out of fear, out of love for Mia's safety, became the first domino to fall. Mia sat cross-legged on the floor, absorbed in her coloring pencils. She looked up and held out her finished drawing, a small house with a red roof and a brilliant sun overhead. "This is our home, right, Mommy?" she asked in her soft, innocent voice. It stabbed straight into Anna's heart. Anna smiled and nodded, but her throat tightened, her eyes stung with tears. A phone ring snapped her back to reality. It was Carla. Her voice urgent and terse, giving Anna no chance to refuse. "We need to meet. Pioneer Square. The old cafe." No explanation, only a tone that mixed urgency with something raw and real, like a final call from someone who had nothing left to lose. Anna hesitated for a moment, then she sent Mia to the neighbor's house, grabbed her coat, and stepped outside, her heart pounding. She had no idea what awaited her, but she knew that silence now would mark her as a coward forever. Carla sat in a corner of the cafe, her hands gripping an untouched cup of coffee. Her face had lost the pride of last night. Only exhaustion and redness lingered around her eyes, yet her gaze remained unyielding. And when she spoke, Anna's world began to crumble a second time. "David didn't die by accident," Carla said, slowly but unwaveringly. "He wasn't an outsider. He worked with me. He was gathering evidence. We were about to expose a series of exploitative practices at the Asian factories: child labor, bribery of officials, deadly working conditions. David had it all. He planned to blow the lid off next week, but he never got the chance." Anna lost her balance. Her ears rang. Her heart pounded in her chest. The nights David came home late, his weary sighs about pressures at work, the papers he hurriedly hid when she entered the room, all came rushing back. It wasn't imagination. It wasn't random. It was the terrifying truth. "He was killed," Carla concluded, "by a staged accident. And they succeeded until now." Anna could not speak. She left the cafe with trembling hands, feeling the world around her shift color. David's death was no longer a personal grief. It was the trace of a conspiracy, a cold network that devoured the man she loved. A few days later, still reeling from shock, she got an unexpected call. Nathaniel, his tone calm, polite. He invited her to a Belltown cafe, not a demand but barely a choice. They met in a secluded corner. He offered her a role as community advisor on the independent audit team reviewing Voss Dynamics. An odd invitation, but hidden within it lay an opportunity to access the company's records, an opportunity to step into the place David once tried to infiltrate, an opportunity to learn the truth. Anna nodded, not out of trust in Nathaniel, but because she could no longer stand on the sidelines. The Voss Dynamics headquarters, a towering glass structure in downtown Seattle, loomed cold and magnificent like the corporation itself. Anna entered feeling like a stranger in a realm of power, but she was not there to observe. She was there to find. For weeks, she worked quietly with investigators, steadfastly, patiently, each day unearthing one file, each night leaving another trace, until she discovered an encrypted folder buried deep within the internal secure system, an anonymous email, a link, a password, and then a directory titled Whistleblower 042, Status Neutralized. Anna's heart seemed to stop. She opened it. Inside lay a series of internal reports detailing David's surveillance, every step he took, every contact he made, every email he sent, and a cold notation. Risk of disclosure high. Neutralization plan executed 0814. That was the day he died. Anna stood mute. Her fingers shook as she plugged the USB into her laptop, each file copied, each line of data scrolling past on the screen. When the progress bar finished, she withdrew the USB, slipped it into her coat pocket, and walked out of the building. Her heart thundered in her chest. She was no longer a grieving widow, she was a witness. carrying an empire in her pocket. Anna stood motionless in the small room, the USB in her hand feeling like a heavy lump of lead. She knew she could not hold on to it for long. This data was more than mere evidence. It was a lifeline, a past, an answer to the years she had not understood why she lost everything, and it was also the threat that could cost her even more. She reached out to the only person she could think of, Elena Ruiz, investigative reporter at the Seattle Times, a woman who had dug into countless political scandals and never flinched at confronting the system. Elena needed no elaborate explanation. The moment she heard David and internal documents, her voice darkened, resolute. "Meet me tomorrow morning. Be careful." But tomorrow morning felt like a luxury. For that very night, while Anna stayed late at the office reviewing the fake reports, a new task assigned to her, the back door slammed open. No knock, no greeting. Marcus Kane entered like a cold wind. The former executive of Voss Dynamics, once hailed as the silent brain behind major deals. His silver hair glinted under the fluorescent lights. His face unreadable, expressionless. Only his eyes remained, cold, deep, as if every moral consideration had long since been stripped away. "You have what I need," he said, his tone steady. Anna rose, forcing her hands to stay calm. "I don't know what you're talking about." Kane stepped closer, his gaze never wavering. "Don't pretend. Where's the USB?" She swallowed hard. Her heart thundered in her chest, yet her voice remained level. "I'm not holding anything." The air grew thick in the room. Kane advanced. At that moment, footsteps echoed in the hallway. The night security guard. Kane recoiled, his stare still piercing her as a silent warning. He turned without another word. Yet as the door clicked shut behind him, Anna collapsed into her chair, utterly spent. She didn't go home. She couldn't wait until morning. She hailed a taxi straight to the Seattle Times newsroom and knocked on Elena's office door like a person emerging from a storm. Elena took the USB without asking a question. She already knew what Anna had done. It was a strike at the heart of a corporation once deemed invincible. By the next morning, the city erupted. Elena's expose appeared on the front page, bold headline, "Truth Behind the Facade, the Blood Price of the Voss Dynamics Empire." Every detail was laid bare. Hidden workplace accidents, child labor at Indonesian factories, bribes to muzzle witnesses, and David's death, the whistleblower neutralized to protect their secrets. Marcus Kane's name surfaced in banking records tied directly to suspicious payments around the time of David's demise. The police acted swiftly. They raided Kane's home just hours after the story broke. Images of him in handcuffs flashed across every news channel, a final blow to Voss Dynamics' last bastion of pride. The company's stock plunged freefall style. Protesters thronged the headquarters, banners rippled in the wind. Justice for workers. David didn't die in vain. Nathaniel stepped into the public eye, no longer the proud CEO of old. His face hardened, yet his glare lost its frost, replaced by belated realization. He called a press conference to announce his resignation. Before the cameras, he admitted his mistakes and pledged funding to the Labor Justice Fund, an independent body to oversee global working conditions. Then, he sought out Carla. They met not at corporate headquarters, but in the old community center, where Carla once taught free English classes to immigrants. No security guards, no cameras. Nathaniel offered his apology. No excuses, no evasions. He proposed compensation, but he did not stop there. He asked Carla to co-lead the Justice Fund as a spokesperson, to represent those harmed by the very system he built. Carla did not nod immediately. She gazed at him long and hard, then spoke. I don't need anyone to atone. I need you to listen and to change. Finally, she agreed, not for forgiveness, but for the thousands who had never heard an apology. That evening, Anna lay on the sofa as Mia curled up beside her. On the TV screen, images of the press conference and peaceful protests played, along with a banner. Labor Justice Fund now accepting community members. Anna watched her daughter sleep, her small hand clutching her own. She should feel relief, and in part she did, as though she could finally breathe after days of relentless strain. Yet the peace was incomplete. Fear lingered, a vague sense that behind those closed doors, those who once protected Nathaniel might still be watching. She was no hero, just a mother, a wife, someone who had endured loss and now fought to keep the truth from being buried. And she knew the journey was far from over. 2 years later, Anna stood at the inauguration of the Labor Justice Fund in Tacoma, Mia by her side holding a slice of cheesecake and beaming with delight. The fund, sponsored by Nathaniel, provided fair wages and safe conditions for thousands of workers. Carla, now co-director, smiled brighter than ever. Her scarred hands served as badges of resilience. Nathaniel, standing quietly behind them, spoke succinctly. I am not a hero, but I have learned from people like Anna and Carla about true courage. Anna continued to write, filling her notebooks with stories of workers, of protests, and with Mia's joyful smile. She met Nathaniel one final time at Gasworks Park, looking out over Lake Union. He admitted that he did not deserve forgiveness, but that he was striving to make amends for those who had been harmed, for David, for Anna, and for Mia. Anna replied evenly, Keep trying, but I will never forget what your company took from us. The powder in Nathaniel's cake had been the spark that set off a chain reaction. It exposed the truth, set things right, and gave Anna a new purpose. She thought of David. His belief in justice lived on in every step she took. The fight was not over. Corporations remained powerful, workers still faced exploitation, but Anna was no longer alone. With Mia, Carla, Elena, and a community of fellow advocates, she faced the uncertain future with a heart full of hope. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Don't forget to let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always wonderful to see people tuning in from around the world. Comment 1 if you enjoyed the story, so we can continue bringing you more great narratives.